Imagine waking up at dawn. The air is damp and cold, your breath visible in the dim light. A bell rings somewhere above you, slow, heavy, echoing through thick stone walls. Outside in the courtyard, you hear footsteps, the sound of horses, a crackling fire. Smoke rises from the chimneys. It's morning, in a medieval castle. We often imagine castles as places of luxury, with kings and queens, grand halls and glittering banquets. But the truth is, life inside those walls was far from easy. The castle wasn't built for comfort. It was built for survival. In the early Middle Ages, castles were simple wooden fortresses, quick to build, easy to defend, and often perched high on a hill overlooking the land. Over time, wood gave way to stone. Walls grew thicker. Towers rose higher. Moats were dug deep around them, and drawbridges could be raised in seconds when danger approached. The castle was not just a home, it was a symbol of power, a statement to everyone who looked up from the valley below. Here rules someone you do not want to challenge. At its heart stood the keep, the main tower, the lord's residence, the last refuge if the castle was under siege. Around it stretched the courtyard, stables, kitchens, blacksmiths' workshops, soldiers' quarters, and storerooms full of grain and salted meat. It was a small, self-contained world, and for many it was the only world they knew. The lord of the castle was often a knight or nobleman, responsible for the lands surrounding the fortress. He collected taxes, settled disputes, trained soldiers, and, when needed, rode to war. His life was a mixture of authority and constant vigilance. Every day brought new concerns, disputes among peasants, news of raiders, or simply the challenge of keeping order in a time when peace was fragile. The lady of the castle had a different but equally important role. She managed the household, food, fabrics, servants, and sometimes even defense when her husband was away. She oversaw the kitchens, arranged banquets, and cared for the family. In a world ruled by men, she held quiet but real power within the castle walls. Daily life followed a strict rhythm. At dawn, the servants began their chores, tending fires, baking bread, fetching water from the well. The smell of smoke, wet straw, and animals filled the air. Every sound echoed, the clang of metal, the bark of a dog, the toll of a bell calling people to work or prayer. Meals were simple except on feast days. Bread was everywhere, round loaves, flat loaves, sometimes even used as plates. Meat was a sign of wealth, especially pork and game from the nearby forests. And while we might picture elegant dining, there were no forks. People ate with their hands using knives and chunks of bread. Wine and ale were far safer to drink than water, which was often contaminated. And for the wealthy, spices like pepper, cinnamon, and ginger turned ordinary food into something extraordinary. They also helped cover the taste of meat that wasn't exactly fresh. Banquets were the highlight of castle life. Imagine torches flickering against stone walls, tables covered in food, the sound of laughter and music. Minstrels sang of heroes and battles. Jesters entertained the guests, while servants moved quietly in the background, refilling cups and clearing platters. But once the feast ended, life returned to its usual rhythm. Hard work, cold rooms, and long nights. For the servants and soldiers, the castle could be a harsh place. They worked endlessly, cooking, cleaning, maintaining weapons, feeding animals, or standing guard through the night. Their rooms were small, dark, and cold, often with straw on the floor instead of beds. The smell of smoke and sweat never really went away. And hygiene? Almost non-existent. There was no running water. People washed in small wooden basins with cold water, when they could. Toilets were little more than holes in the walls, emptying straight into the moat below. Illness was common, and warmth was a constant struggle. Even for nobles, the castle was drafty, smoky, and dim. Fires provided light and heat, but also filled the rooms with soot. The walls were damp, the air heavy. Life inside those massive walls was safer, but far from comfortable. When war came, and it often did, the castle's real purpose revealed itself. The drawbridge would rise, The gates would lock, and the community inside prepared for siege. Sometimes villagers from the surrounding lands sought shelter within the walls, bringing animals, food, and whatever they could carry. The courtyard became crowded, noisy, chaotic. Days turned into weeks. Food ran low. Disease spread quickly in the confined space. Many sieges ended not with swords and fire, but with starvation. For those trapped inside, it was a test of endurance and faith. Stood against centuries of storms, wars, and time itself. Even as new weapons appeared, gunpowder, cannons, and the age of castles came to an end, their legacy remained. Today, many lie in ruins. Others still stand proudly on the hills, silent but majestic, watching over the lands they once ruled. Every stone tells a story of power, fear, courage, and survival. Behind the cold walls and narrow windows were real people, lords and ladies, soldiers and servants, children and craftsmen. They lived, loved, prayed, and worked under the same sky as we do today. Living in a medieval castle wasn't a fairy tale. It was hard, dangerous, and often lonely. But it was also meaningful. A life built on duty, loyalty, and resilience. And perhaps that's why castles still fascinate us. Because when we look at them, standing silent against the horizon, we feel something ancient stir within us. Every wall, every tower, every echo of a bell in the wind is a voice from a time long gone, a time that somehow has never truly disappeared.